So in this video we're going to be talking about inequalities in one triangle and the hinge theorem. So, larger angle theorem. If two sides of a triangle are not congruent, then the larger angle lies opposite the longer side. So, if xz is greater than xy, then that means two of my sides are not congruent. So I can say that if two of my sides aren't congruent, that one angle that's across from the largest side is going to be my largest angle. So the largest side is going to be connected to, like across from here, my largest angle. Okay, so a town park is triangular. A landscape architect wants to place a bench at the corner with the largest angle. So we're going to be looking for the one that we think has the largest angle. Which two streets form the corner with the largest angle? So we need the if two sides aren't congruent, so it looks like all of my sides aren't congruent, that means the largest angle should sit across from the largest side. So 175 yards, looks like it is my largest side, so my largest angle is going to be here. So it's going to be between MLK Boulevard and Valley Road. Largest side theorem. If two angles of a triangle are not congruent, so now we're talking about the angles, not sides, so if two angles aren't congruent, then the longer side lies opposite the larger angle. So it's basically the same thing except for reverse. We're talking about angles and the side being the longest. So list the sides, hold on, from shortest to longest. So we got to find out what this side is, or this angle is first. So I'm going to take 58 plus 62 plus x, and they should add all together to get you 180. So let's find out what that angle is. So we know that this last one is 60 when we solve for x. So now, let's write them in order from biggest to smallest. So we have angle V, angle T, and angle U. So, like we said on the previous one, here and here, the larger angle is always across from the larger side. So we're going to do it. The larger angle, which we said was angle V, should be across from the larger side. So angle V is across from UT. Angle T is across from UV. And angle U is across from TV. So you're just going to write them respectively. Triangle inequality theorem. So for us to have a triangle, the sum of the lengths of any two sides that we pick should be greater than the length of the third side. So let's say I pick these two sides. So we're going to do 3 plus 3. It should be greater than 5 to be able to be a triangle. So 3 plus 3 is 6. So that one works. So now let's pick two different sides. So we're going to do 3 and 5. So 3 plus 5 should be greater than that last side, so 3. So 3 plus 5 is 8. So that is true. Now let's do our last one. So this 3 and this 5. So 3 plus 5 should be greater than that last side. So 3. 3 plus 5 is 8. 8 is greater than 3. So we know that that is true. So if you add up any two side lengths, it should always be greater than that third side length. So if we look at this other one here, let's say we pick this and this one, so 2 plus 6 should be greater than the one I have left, so 2. 2 plus 6 is 8. 8 is greater than 2, so that one worked. Now let's try the other 2 and 6, which is the exact same thing, so that one worked. So now let's do our very last one. So we'll have this 2 and this 2. So 2 plus 2 should be greater than this last length, so 6. So 2 plus 2 is 4. 4 is not greater than 6. Okay, so you can see just by the picture why it does not work. If this side is 2 centimeters and this side is 2 centimeters and this is 6, they are never going to connect. So you will not make a triangle. Okay, just like how when we wrote our 2 plus 2, it's supposed to be greater than 6 and it's not. So we can never make a triangle if we add two sides together and is not greater than that third side. And an example of it is the one that we just did. So let's try these ones. So let's do this one and this one. So 3 plus 7 should be greater than 8. 10 is greater than 8. Cool. So now let's pick a different color. Let's do 3 and 8. So 3 plus 8 should be greater than that one left. So 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 is greater than 7. Now let's pick a different color. And do our last two, so 7 and 8. So 7 plus 8 should be greater than that 3. So 7 plus 8 is 15. 15 is greater than 3. So all three of those worked, so we know that that could make a triangle. So now let's try this next one. Let's do 5 and 10. So 5 and 10 should be greater than 15. 5 plus 10 is 15. So it does not work because 15 is never greater than 15. If it was greater than or equal to, yes. Okay, so since this did not work, this cannot make a triangle. Okay, possible side lengths. Two sides of a triangle sandbox are 5 feet and 8 feet long. What is the range of possible lengths for the third side? So the type of equation we're using, let's say we do 5 plus 8, it should always be greater than this other side here. So we'll put question mark here because we don't know what our range can be. So 5 plus 8 then is 13. Okay, so x then can be anything less than 13. So our range of possibilities is anything less than 13, but we can't have a negative length. So technically, it is anything that is from 0 to 13 feet, if I'm going to label. Okay, so that is our range of possibilities. It could be 1, it could be 2, it could be 3, it could be 4, it could be 12, it could be 12.5. It cannot be 13 though, and it cannot be any negative numbers. Okay, the hinge theorem. If two sides of one triangle are congruent to two sides of another triangle, then the third sides are not congruent, then the larger included angle is opposite the longer third side, and vice versa. So if I have two angles that are congruent, that means the largest angle is across from the largest side. Okay, so let's look at just the regular hinge theorem first. So if the measure of angle A, so I have two congruent sides shown from these pictures, on two triangles, so they're congruent to each other. If I have angle A being bigger than angle X here, right here, then that means my length, BC, should be greater than YZ, because my angle A is larger. So my larger angle is always going to sit across from my larger side. So then my next one, the converse here, is if two angles are congruent here. Okay, so I'm going to have BC, if BC is bigger than the one that's written respectively to it as YZ, okay, then that means my angle A, since it's across from my larger side, it should be bigger than my angle X, which is across from my other side here. So the measure of angle X. So you either have to have two congruent angles on two congruent triangles written respectively, or two congruent sides and another two congruent sides from another triangle to be able to do these. Okay. So we have, by the reflexive property, this line is being congruent. So we have two sides being congruent to each other. So that means my biggest angle should sit across from my biggest side. So my biggest side here is 23 because 23 is bigger than 22. So that means 75 is the biggest angle compared to this other one. So 75 is the biggest it can go, with x minus 13 being on the other side. So 75 sits across from your biggest side, so it should be bigger than the x minus 13. So now we're going to solve to figure out what our range of possibilities for x could be. So I'm going to add 13 to both sides and get 88. So anything that is less than 88 degrees could be a possibility for this right here. Okay, so by the reflexive property, we have two sides that are congruent in two respective triangles. So that means the biggest side sits across from the biggest angle again. So 36 should be the bigger angle because it's across from the biggest side. So 36 should be the biggest one, so I'm going to eat the bigger one. And we're going to set it equal to, or we're going to have it greater than the angle that is written respectively to the other side. And so now we're going to solve it again. Divide by 2, so x equals. divided by 2, it's not going to be x equals, oops. So 52 is divided by 2 is 26. So anything less than 26 can represent this x right here and make it smaller than that 36 degrees. Okay, so now we have two sides being the same again on two triangles. So that means the angle that sits across from the larger side is also the bigger angle again. So 6 is bigger than 4, so that means the 43 degrees should be greater than the other one that sits across from the 4. So 4y minus 5. Let's figure out our range that we could use for y. So 48 is greater than 4y divided by 4. So y can be anything less than 12 and represent a smaller angle than that 43 degrees.